Okay, welcome everybody. We'll go ahead and get started here. I hope everybody is well and healthy, and I hope everyone had a successful and safe weekend now that courses are open in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. There hasn't been a lot of movement since our announcements the end of last week, but we would like to remind everybody that please obey the guidelines. I know almost everybody has been, and we're just trying to set a good example and trying to keep golf open. We know if any violations are reported, we're just fearful that golf will be shut down, as well as the parks in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So if you have any questions, feel free to give me a shout via my email or my cell phone, which has been on the emails that have been going out. So before we get started here, I've just got a few housekeeping procedures for today's webinar. If you guys have any technical issues, please use the chat feature in the top right-hand portion of your screen, and I will do my best to help. Please be aware that most of the issues we've had with our webinars have just been due to Wi-Fi connection, so there might be only so much I can do, but if you put it in the chat feature, I will do my best to help. Throughout the webinar, if you can please remain muted unless you have a question or unless you're called on. That way there isn't any background noise while Kaitlyn is presenting. If you do have questions, Kaitlyn said to go ahead and unmute yourself and just hop in. Or if you're uncomfortable doing that, you can certainly use the chat feature and we'll prompt as needed. There is one button I'd like you all to avoid on your screen. It says present now. Please do not click that, as that will show everybody on the call your screen. And finally, if anyone has called into today's webinar via phone, please send me an email at mfrey@pjhq.com. That way we can make sure you get your MSR credits. Okay, so before I hand it over to Kaitlyn, I just want to give a brief intro to her. Some of you might remember she helped us out a few years ago at, I believe, our spring meeting. She spoke about fitness then as well. Kaitlyn started in the golf fitness industry in 2008. She played collegiate golf at Methodist University, where she majored in business administration with a concentration in PGA golf management. She's been named a Golf Digest Top 50 fitness instructor and is a national speaker in her field in fitness, and has implemented golf fitness programs at several country clubs, including Belmont Country Club in Massachusetts and currently the Adequatneck Country Club in Rhode Island. I probably butchered that name, so I apologize. Did I? All right.
Great.
Her online golf fitness currently serves 200 athletes worldwide, and she's very grateful to be able to share what she knows with the industry. So with that, I will turn it over to Kaitlyn.
Oh, thank you, Matt. That was such a great intro. I'm always I'm so grateful and honored to be here with you all. It is like memory lane. Sorry, I just had our friend brought over cupcakes and they're gluten-free, but now my blood sugar is like, but it's just such a memory lane thing, because I was here 5 years ago with you guys, and it's so great to be back. And I know probably a lot of you have questions on how to get into the fitness industry, or what are some ways that you can be helping your clients and athletes. I'm kind of going above and beyond, and helping them get into the positions that you're trying to get them to do. So I am so excited to be here, and I have my notes in front of me. I'm ready to go. We turned our living room literally into a studio here for you today. So we're really excited. And I'm sitting on a foam roller, so sorry, it keeps like squeaking and doing all sorts of fun stuff. But yes, I'm so excited to get started. And please, I just pulled up the chat box here, so if anyone has any questions on anything as we go along, like feel free to unmute yourself, or I'll check the chat box here, and then we can make this very interactive, very fun. I know it's 3 o'clock, 3 p.m. Eastern, so want to keep you engaged, and I'm really excited to bring you through some exercises. So to get things started, this is what I had kind of on the menu for you today, and I'm really opening this up for the floor. But what I had in mind is talking a lot about the body swing connection in the 3 biggest areas, largest areas that I find on my end is that people need the most help with. So as you can imagine, as probably you see on your end, and you can let me know in the chat box here, it's things like their hips, whether maybe their hips aren't, maybe you're trying to get your client to avoid sway or slide, or get a bigger turn with their lower body, or actually be able to use their lower body. And maybe you're finding that they aren't able to do that efficiently, no matter how many times you've chatted with them and said, hey, like, let's do this drill, let's do this drill. And maybe they're getting frustrated. They're probably feeling like they're putting like a square peg through a round hole, if you will, like I did in college. And the second area is their thoracic spine. So basically, fancy word for your ability to rotate through your upper body. And so we're all going to run through a couple tests for each of these, a test for each of these areas. And then I'll share with you some exercises that you can try right at home to help you with those positions, and be able to speak about your experience to help your clients. And then the third area is their core strength. Like if your core strength is less than stellar, you're going to have a lot of low back pain, a lot of back tenderness, and it's not going to be a comfortable or easy ride for those who play golf, especially putting and chipping and being in that hunched, well, hopefully a hinge position. But if they don't have that core strength and the glute strength to be able to stay in that position, it's going to be very, very uncomfortable for them. They're not going to enjoy the game, or they're probably going to have to take ibuprofen to get through it. So I'd love to start with those 3 areas. And then I also have I get a lot of questions on a pre-golf warm-up for, or just like an everyday live your life warm-up, especially right now when you're probably just thinking of you sitting at home watching this. You're probably like at home, maybe you've got your workout clothes on ready to go, but like think about how much time we're spending in this flexed position. Like your shoulder blades are forward, your neck is rounded, hopefully not. That's why I'm sitting on the floor. I have the computer eye level, so I'm not hunched over like this, so I wouldn't be a presentation, but you know what I mean? Our client, we have to think about how our clients are right now and how they're going to show up to us in a couple weeks or next week or whenever you're opening, hopefully very soon. We just really want to take that into consideration when we're saying, all right, Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones, like, here's what we're going to do today. But if they've been in this flexed position and now we want them to be an extension and go through all these movements, we just really want their body to be primed. And I would really love for, me to help you prime your body so that you can talk about these experiences and maybe link up with a local fitness professional who you can join as a team, whether it's virtually or if it's in person. However, this pandemic kind of plays out. At least you have that body swing process in mind. You have your team in place, and your client really feels very supportive and like they've got this pro team around them, if you will. So with that, before we get started, does anyone actually have any questions that they definitely want answered? Like, I don't want you to like sit through this whole thing and be like, I never got my question answered, or she never addressed that. So probably a little unconventional, but I'd love to just get your questions, pop them in the chat box here. I'd love to see those there. That way I can really plan, if you have any. If you don't, that's totally fine. I know Matt mentioned that some of you were actually interested in getting into the fitness industry, so the golf fitness industry rather. So if anyone has any questions on, you know, I can talk about how to go about that, how to get certified, what certifications, you know, to what and to what degree you're looking to get into the fitness industry on, meaning like, do you want to actually write golf fitness programs? Do you want to be in charge? Do you want to take on a new role on your team? You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm just looking here. There's no questions, right, Matt?
Not yet, no.
Okay. So I'm just making sure everything's working on my end. So yeah, so what we'll do is I'd love to start off with chatting about the 3 major areas that are problem areas for golfers, as we know. And maybe a lot of this is what you already know, but I'd love to kind of bring you through. How many of you are familiar with Titleist Performance Institute? Anyone certified here? Whether it's like junior coach, golf fitness professional, who is TPI certified in the room today? Pete, hello. I know Pete. How's it going? This is awesome. So Pete is, I am. So for those of you who do not know, I'm sure a lot of you have heard Titleist Performance Institute, Greg Rose, David Phillips, but Titleist Performance Institute is the golf fitness. If you're looking to get into the golf fitness industry or learn more about the body swing connection and really diving into a deeper level on understanding how this, like your body's supposed to move in the golf swing, what muscles are responsible for allowing certain movements. I mentioned kind of sticking a square peg through a round hole. Like in college, when I was introduced to TPI, I could not for the life of me separate my lower from my upper body efficiently in order to really bring the next level of that I needed to be a great collegiate player. And you know, it was, I'd hit ball after ball after ball, like probably many of your clients are, maybe you are. And, you know, we blame age, we blame flexibility, but actually with just a little bit of weight training, like 2 to 3 times a week and some mobility work, you can be a stronger, if not stronger, you were in your 30s, 20s, 30s, you are, there's no cap at your fitness level is what I'm trying to say. So just like I think it was 5 years ago, someone touched their toes for the first time in 20 years. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but I remember that like it's just moments like that. It just gives you the chills like, wow, like it doesn't matter what has happened in the last week at home or month or 2 years or 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. It just matters that you're here and you're starting now. And as long as you can put all of what's happened in the past and you can move on and have a plan, you can literally change your golf swing, your fitness, your mental health, like so much about your game and your life just by starting today and not kind of drudging in the past. That's something that's really awesome to kind of relay to your clients as well, that are kind of like, oh man, I've been working on this for years now, nothing's changing, and you know, they get really frustrated. So talking about fitness and having that fitness intelligence is something that could be really inspiring to them. Or maybe they're already working out, but they don't know how to marry the 2 concepts. And maybe that's where you're really interested in. And I speak to so many PGA, LPGA teaching professionals who have gone through their own transformation. And that's honestly some of the biggest inspiration to them of wanting to get into the golf fitness industry. So we can talk about that we can talk about how to get into the golf industry, but now I want to get you moving and get you up and focusing on some of these 3 problem areas first, and then we can kind of open it up to how to get into that industry. But so first off, is I'd love to bring, so going back to TPI, Titleist Performance Institute is basically they have studied thousands and thousands and thousands of the best players in the world. And what they've done is they've created these buckets of efficiency, if you will. So if a tour professional can do this with their shoulder, or get their arm up here, or squat to a certain level, or looks like a certain movement, that means that this is like the standard of what this is like the range, if you will, that the best players in the world can do. So we're holding this as like an example, and you kind of, and by these examples or these standards, if you will, which, you know, things can change, but like it gives you something to compare to. And instead of putting up a tour, like a golf swing of a tour professional to someone who maybe doesn't feel great in their body, and like they now you're going to put them up against a touring professional and they're like, oh, this is extra intimidating. It kind of gives them something to, you know what I mean? Like compare to, which is really, really nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over 3 of those tests, and we'll share with you what happens when you're in, like, let's say a less than efficient category, and then an exercise or 2 that can help you improve and get into that category. Does that sound good, everyone? I'm so excited. Should we move on to like the first one? Does anyone have any questions before we get moving and get started? I'm going to adjust my camera here so you guys can see me. No questions. All right. If anyone has any questions, we can go from there. But what I'd love everyone to do is I'm going to bring you all through a lower quarter rotation test. Now, what you're going to need for this test, I'm going to share with you what. You don't have to have golf clubs, but I'm sure all of you have golf clubs. But if you happen to have a 6-iron and 2 other random clubs lying around, you can do this right at home together with me. If not, you can look at me and you can kind of do it from the eye. But I'd really love for you to get those golf clubs and try this at a later time. But this first test is this first test is called the lower quarter rotation test. And we're going to assess basically someone's hip mobility and internal, external rotation of their hips. So if, for instance, I'm going to grab my clubs here. So for this test, I'm going to just put my screen up a little bit. Sorry, bear with me. It's a little bit different than Zoom as far as, can everyone kind of see my head? Okay, we'll work with this. Is that okay, Matt? Can you see me okay?
Yeah, I'll let you know if it gets bad. We can't see what you're doing.
Okay, great. Perfect. Let me go ahead and just up this a little bit. Okay. So at home, we're going to use a 6-iron. And so what I'm going to have you do is you're going to take a 6-iron and you're going to lay it face down, and we're just going to lay it right perpendicular in front of your toes. So you're going to put this right down on the floor like this, so it's perpendicular to your toes. I'm going to move this around so you can kind of see a little bit better. Everyone can see my club there. Now, it's a 6-iron because we're creating a specific angle, if you will, to assess your hip mobility. So I'm a right-handed player. I'm going to start assessing with my left leg first. So then you can grab another random club, doesn't matter what it is, and you're going to basically put I'm just going to put the shaft of the club right up against the lie angle. So just like this. So this is creating an angle like so. Okay, so this angle you can see here, everyone. And this is an angle for me as a fitness professional, or if you're looking at this from a golf perspective for at home, I want you to feel what's going on with your hips right now. So at home, let's go ahead and set that up. And no comments there, good. So what we're going to do is so for a right-handed player, right, we're going to assess your front leg, so your left leg. So, or your lead leg there. So what I'm going to have you do is you're going to step on your left foot, so your toes are right up against the 6-iron shaft here. And from here, your right foot can just be within a footprint. So not like way out here or like way over here, like within the footprint. And then you're going to take a random other club, and you're just going to put this club shaft right up against both hip bones. So when I screen either people virtually or in person, a lot of people, when they turn, they'll try to get like a little extra rotation. They'll let the club pop off their hip. You don't want to do that. So at home, I want you to have your left foot planted, right foot in line, feet or your hip is closed on the thing here. And then all you're going to do is you're going to turn all the way into your left side until you hit kind of like a wall, if you will. And so your left foot's going to be planted. You're going to turn all the way over. And some of you are going to be like, that's all I have. And some of you are going to just blow past really like with ease. But the thing that we're looking for is if you can see, oh, actually, I'm just going to point this down. Oh, you can see that. So if everyone can see this club here, right? So I'm trying to see if the club across my hips can surpass the club that is the random club here. That's not the 6-iron, but the other club that's on the floor. Now, according to TPI standards, if you can, you have great internal rotation on your lead leg. So I'm not going to use left and right because everyone could be starting on different, or could be right-handed player, left-handed player. So you have so we're assessing your internal rotation. So that motion when you are loading up into your left side. So if someone has limited internal rotation of their left side, that could mean, what are they going to have to do to get down to the golf ball? They're not going to have that ability to turn into their left side and really have an explosive, efficient impact position. I'm not teaching the golf swing. That is all up to you guys. I always refer my clients to you, but it's really helpful to have a great understanding of all of these things. And so if someone can't quite get into their left side, they're going to do things like slide and all these other awesome things that are very frustrating. But for someone who really cares about the golf game and they're beyond frustrated, can you kind of see like what the frustration may be? And so I'd love to show you any questions on that, just the internal rotation part. We're going to get into external rotation of your trail leg, but until then, I'm just going to keep going. So now what we want to do is what happens when what happens to this right side? So as a right-handed player, I want to assess my right hip on the downswing, okay? So from here, all I'm going to do is switch feet. So my right foot's now planted, left heel's kind of up. And then from here, you're just going to put the club shaft across your both hip bones. And now we're going to rotate still to the left. It's going to be opposite on film. I don't want to try to like hit the wall here, but you're just going to rotate all the way out as far as you can. Now, you'll notice a lot of people will try to get more rotation by letting that club come off their hip, but it's really important that we keep both hips glued to that club. Now, this is assessing a player's ability to fire their hips at the target and that external rotation of their trail side or that right side if we're talking about a right-handed player. Does that kind of make sense? And so if a lot of the times, most of the time when golfers come to me, they're like, man, like it doesn't quite click right away. Meaning they're like, oh yeah, you know, I have some sway, I have some slide, I have some over the top. I've been working on it for years. It's something I've always struggled with. But then when we do this test, this is the most eye-opening test that I will do with my clients. And this is a TPI, like I said, TPI test. And it's so amazing when your clients are like, So you're not saying I'm just crazy. Like, there's a reason why I have sway, I have slide, and there is a reason. I'm not crazy. I can understand things, and it's not me, it's my body. And it just gives them like so much hope and inspiration to keep going. And maybe this is their segue into fitness, which you're now helping them with, which is so cool. So again, if you have the inability to externally rotate, meaning we're turning away kind of from that right hip instead of turning into that left hip, what you're going to have is if you can't do this, then we're going to have to fly to get down to the golf ball, or we're going to have to come up and find, like, we're all athletes, right? We're going to find ways to get at the golf ball. And, you know, it's just one of those things that is part of being an athlete. We're just going to figure it out. So that's the lower quarter rotation test. And then how you would then assess. So we just assessed the downswing, right? For a right-handed player, how you would assess the backswing. So someone's ability to rotate into the right side if they're a right-handed player and rotate away from their left hip. How you would do that is just take the 6-iron, you would flip it over. So the face is pointing up towards the sky, and then just reconfigure. And then we would put your right foot down if you chose to do internal rotation of your right hip, and so on and so forth. And to save time and to just open up the floor to any questions that you have, I'll just kind of hold off on doing the other side. But it's really interesting. I think most people, out of, you know, the tests that TPI has, that one is probably the most failed test, along with doing an overhead deep squat test that we did in your in the 5 years ago, which I'm doing different tests now because I didn't want to repeat. There's plenty of tests to choose from, but that particular test is so like inspiring to golfers. We're like, oh my gosh, there's a reason why I have these swing flaws for years, and I can't seem to just change these things. And do you find any of your clients that you currently coach or coached before all this happened, do you find that and these definitely the sway and the slide, maybe you already kind of figured like this has got to be due to flexibility or mobility? Have any of you found that with your particular clients? I know, Pete, you are TPI certified, so I know you've definitely experienced and ran into this. Yeah, I'd love to know that. And then I have 2 awesome stretches that I'd love to bring you guys through. And did anyone actually set it up and do it at home? You guys don't have to be scared. I won't bite. I promise. I promise. Oh, Daniel, you did. You did. Oh, awesome. And this one's funny. Like, it really is incredible. And Peter, what do I call Peter? Pete and Daniel, you can definitely attest to this. That mobility, you can gain mobility and strength very, very quickly. Especially if you haven't been training consistently in the past 6 months, like 6 months, even 3 to 6 months, because. And when I mean consistently, I mean like 2 to 3 times a week, because your body is it just adapts beautifully. So if you haven't been training 2 to 3 times a week for the past 6 months and you start doing mobility work twice a week for 15 to 20 minutes, like a time, or you start doing strength training twice a week for the first month, and then bump it up to 3 times a week for the months, 3 to 5, and then your programs change again, your body is going to adapt so fast. And so if you're thinking like, I'm not even going to share my results with the rest of the class because this is very challenging. It's true. Like, golf is a very, very demanding sport on our body and for our joints. So if we lack just a little bit of mobility, stability, think about it. Like, just 1 degree closed or open on your club face means yards. So can you imagine what just being more efficiently moving could do for your game? It's so inspiring. So don't worry if you're like, oh boy, or because it's great to put yourself through this so you know what your potential clients or your coaching clients are going through. So Pete says, my left hip is a lot tighter than I remember. Yeah, and you know what? It's really awesome, Pete, that thank you for being open and sharing that, because how much sitting we've been doing, that's why I wanted to focus especially on the hips first, because it's very humbling. Like it's very, very humbling. But like I said, couple times mobility, and I can share with you, I have a mobility circuit ready if you guys would like to do that, follow along at the end to help improve that for sure. Daniel says, very good drill. It was funny because when I did when I did my rotation in the downswing exceeded, and you'll find that one side may be a lot more rollable than the other. It's just, we're a one-sided sport, and you have to take into consideration the other sports that you play. So for instance, I surf, I prone paddleboard, so my T-spine is like very locked up. So when I go to play golf now, I really have to put an extra effort to my thoracic spine more than I ever did in my life. So it's just, you have to take into consideration your travel, your stress level, the way you sleep, literally everything. So it's such a great, thanks for being so open, guys. I really appreciate that. Awesome. So how about this? Let's go into the 2 exercises I'd love to show you. Does anyone use foam rollers here? Because I want to keep this moving, but I do have a foam roller exercise. You guys all have access to foam rollers at home, or have you used them before? I know Pete definitely has. Matt, you probably have. Anywho, I'll start with non-foam roller, and if anyone has a foam roller you want me to go through it, just let me know. I'd like to keep it moving. Yes, smaller ones. Okay, no, that's okay. This is a very big foam roller. This is a 3-foot. I also have, if you have a 1-foot, that's fine too. But 2 exercises that are going to really help with your hip mobility and more specifically your groin and your adductors are these 2. So the first one I'd love to do is we're going to do what's called a 90-90 stretch. I'm going to put this on the floor. It could drive me nuts. So your 90-90 stretch, let me go ahead and point this down a little bit. There we go. So your 90-90 stretch, if everyone can sit on the floor together. Okay, I'm going to give you a second. Hop on the floor. Come on, everyone. Let's do it. So you're going to hop on the floor. Now all I'm going to have you do is push your knees all the way to the left. And now I'm going to look opposite on camera. It's quite all right. You're going to spread your knees apart so they're at 90 degrees. Toes, I want your toes pointed towards your shin. So it's going to be a little awkward. You're going to flex your toes up. Now from here, I want you to pretend like a string is pulling up your head. You may already start to feel a stretch in here. That's fine. That means we're really tight, but that's okay. We're all starting where we're starting. String is pulling up your head, and everyone, I want you to hinge forward as if you are trying to look over the edge. So not like doing one of these. So as far as you can with your back nice and straight from head to your tailbone. And I want you to pretend there's like a bug under your left. Such a bad analogy, but pretend there's a bug under your left hip, and I want you to just push your thigh into the ground like you're trying to smush the bug. Okay, bad analogy, I know, but it's Monday and that's what I have. So we're going to push in your left thigh into the ground, and you should feel a stretch go all the way up your left side. Does everyone feel it going up your left side? Let me know in the comments if you feel comfortable sharing. Again, if you want to be interactive, you get the most coaching. So that's what I do. So you're going to try to think driving your left thigh into the ground, breathing into your left hip. You're going to take 3 breaths on each side. Now, if we remember that test, that internal-external rotation test, if you have a tough time with internal rotation on your left side, aka if you're a right-handed player and you can't get to your left side without sliding towards the target, this is going to help you drastically. And now what we're going to do after you get your 3 breaths, I'm going to have you take your right hand behind you like this, and you're going to have your chest up nice and tall. Now the bug is under your right knee. So what I'm going to have you do is push your right knee into the ground, sending your right hip down into the floor. So if there's a flashlight on your right hip, I want you to push it down into the floor. So there's a little glute activation here. You're driving your knee, and you should feel a huge stretch go up your hip flexor area. Again, we're working on external rotation, your ability to push away from that right hip, okay? Now from here, I'm going to have you, while keeping your left leg planted, I'm going to have you drop your right, like butt cheek, basically down to the floor. And now we're going to push back. So flashlight into the ground, flashlight up at the ceiling. So flashlight into the ground, flashlight up at the ceiling. Everyone feel that stretch? I'm just going to go to the comments section really quick. Yes. Yes, verily. Yes, smaller ones, not that big. Okay, gotcha. Yes, so this stretch is so huge for improving your hip mobility. It's so, so huge. And let's go ahead and, what we would do now is just get the other side. So you're going to have your knees up, push them to the right, spread your knees apart so it's at 90-90. You're going to have your head pulling up like a string, hinging forward. Now you're going to drive your right knee into the ground, okay? So right knee is into the ground, and you're just going to breathe into that right hip. Now, my right side is definitely tighter, and it could be the way I sit, the way I sleep. It all is dependent on like what your activity level is, but that basically is going to help with your right internal rotation. And then to get the left side, we're going to reach your hand behind your left glute, drive that left hip into the floor. So flashlight down, breathe, inhale, exhale, and then flashlight up towards the ceiling. And if you find like, man, my hip is not moving at all, that's okay. That's where you're starting. You're not going to have a tremendous amount of movement right away, especially if your hips have been so locked, okay? And then the last stretch for improving your hips is going to be your a hip rock. This is huge. Definitely recommend having something under your knees. We literally have a strip of turf because this is what our house has turned into. We're 2 strength coaches, so we get it. So you're going to get your knees as wide as you can. Toes are tucked inside your knees. Hands are slightly in front. And what you're going to do is brace your core and shift your butt back. Okay, so you're going to feel a huge stretch through your adductors. And this is something that you can do. All of these movements that I'm showing you, you're going to do 10 rocks to the back and then slightly come out of it. These all are pre-golf warm-up movements too. So feel free to use these movements whenever, for your pre-golf warm-ups, for your regular warm-ups, for daily warm-ups, whatever you feel that you need them for. Let me just see how we're doing on time. Matt, when would you like to wrap everything up? I just want to be mindful of time.
Yeah, we slated about an hour.
Oh, okay.
Around 4. Yeah.
So let's go ahead, and if you guys have questions, we might hold them till the end. If that's okay. Feel free to put the comments in there. I just want to make sure we get through these next 2 tests, and then we have time for questions at the end. If that's okay, Matt, does that sound good?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. How long should you hold each stretch? Good question, Courtney. So for those, you want to do 3 kind of drives into each knee, but you want to have those drives be breaths. So inhale, exhale counts as 1. Inhale, exhale counts as 2. All of these mobility moves, we're really working with breath work here, as instead of just holding for time, I kind of always go for breath work. And we can get into that a little bit deeper, but we really want to focus on exhaling into the area that we're trying to improve on instead of just holding it for time and like racing through it. You know what I mean? So moving on to the next assessment, this next TPI movement assessment, this is actually going to assess your ability to disassociate your upper from your lower body. So again, that T-spine that I mentioned, I'm just going to tilt this up. So great question, Courtney. So this next test, I'm going to have everyone stand up, get into like a, what you would, you know, like your basic like 5-iron, mid-iron golf posture. And then I'm just going to have you drop the club, put your hands over your shoulders, and I want to see how you have the ability to rotate your upper or disassociate your upper from your lower body. And if you look like this or you look like this, that is okay. But basically, I want you to feel what it feels like to actually hold your, like if someone were to hold your lower body hostage and like just literally hold your hips hostage and then just only allowed you to disassociate. So what are you feeling? Is it hard? Is it easy? Do you have to kind of have everything together, or is this just like not really moving that much? One of the best ways, I think, or one of the most effective ways to improve what's called your thoracic rotation is something that is called the thoracic spine clap, or your open book. So what we're going to do is we're going to take your foam roller or your pillow, whatever you have, kind of lying around at home that you can hike your knee up on. Everyone, that's my,
hello, dear.
That is my
Hello.
husband. We are both training athletes as we speak. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your top knee and you're going to hike it up onto your pillow, your roller, whatever you have. Okay, then from here, you're going to lay on your side. So your head and your spine are in line, and you're going to take your top hand while pressing into the roller. You're going to do this 8 times on each side. You're going to take your top hand and you're going to open all the way up. So you're going to get a huge stretch through your pecs, through your thoracic spine, and then we're going to come back. And as you do this, you may feel and hear some like very weird things like popping and cracking. And as long as it's not painful, there's nothing to worry about there. But you basically want to take your top hand and you want to go all the way out. So you're getting a huge, nice rotation, 8 times on each side. And that is one of my favorite ways to help golfers who have a really tough time getting an awesome turn. Or maybe you found, okay, they're super active, they move really well, they've been tested, they have great hip mobility, they have good core stability. Like, what is the deal with their upper body that they can't rotate? So maybe it's thoracic mobility, especially being in this position right now. People need pulling and thoracic mobility more than anything. So you want to do that 8 times on each side. And then the other one that I particularly love, this is you know, a pretty challenging movement, but we're all go-getters here. So what you want to do for this one, it's along the same lines. We're still working your thoracic spine, but just a different way of doing it. So you're going to take your left arm, you're going to put your butt back on your heels. Left arm is straight. Lock it out. Right hand goes on the low back part of your head, your back. And all you're going to do, your eyes lead the movement. So you're going to go down here and you're going to rotate all the way up. And again, this one is a very, very humbling exercise, because you may be like, and that's all I have. That's totally fine. So if you do these 2 to 3 times a week, I promise you will improve. So you're going to do this 8 times, but the key to doing this is, again, breath work. So don't rep it out. You want to think inhale and then exhale. So inhale as you look up, creating tension, creating that contraction, and then exhale as you go into like the easier part of the stretch. So again, we're just trying to create movement, create spinal movement through the things that have been really tight. And I can guarantee you, your students will come to you with a very, very tight back. So just having this knowledge and be like, hey, you know what, Mrs. Jones, you look a little tight. Have you ever thought about doing some mobility stretches? Or I've got a great team member who I could refer you to, or here's a great video, or you know what I mean? Just helping them understand that it's not them and it's their body can really go a long way. Any questions on that part, on the spine? On the spine, let's see. Any questions there? Not yet. What do we have for time here? Perfect. So if no one has any questions on the thoracic spine test, I'm going to go ahead and get into talk about the pelvic tilt test. This is, again, it looks so easy, guys, but it's actually a super challenging movement for a lot of people, and has everything to do with core stability and core strength and pelvic mobility. So let's actually get into that. And then if any questions, we can kind of wrap this up and talk about if you're interested in getting the fitness industry. And if this has inspired you to want to learn more, we can talk more about that. So this is the pelvic tilt test. So this test, as you guys know, one of the things that TPI mentions is all the best golfers in the world, they all have they have several things in common, but one of the things they have in common is when they load up in their backswing, on their way through, they all have a slight pelvic tilt at the golf ball. So they're basically taking their pelvis and they're tucking it, right? They're closing the gap between their rib cage and their pelvic in their pelvis. So they're almost doing like a crunch. And that's why it's so amazing. That creates power, it creates speed, it creates stability, it creates amazing compression and consistency. So for a golfer who has no idea how to do this movement or how to use their abdominals during the and I was so, and this is still to this day is a very challenging thing for me to do, and I train and I know how to play golf. It's still a really challenging thing for me. I get really tripped up about this movement because it doesn't take much to regress a little bit, and then that's why it's really important to just know these things. But so if we train our clients and we encourage them to train like athletes, they have the mobility, they have the stability. But then what's really cool about what you do is you can actually get them to take this body they've been able to train, and that's mobile enough, it's fast enough, it's strong enough, it's stable enough. You can then say, okay, put that club in your hand, you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this, and then just swing as fast as you're going to tell them very simply to do what it is you want them to do, but they have the body to be able to do that. And then it's just like, whoa, you to them, it's just, you just open the doors up for them on stuff they've been trying to do for years. So for this test, what you want to do, so at home, hop on up. You're going to get in your 5-iron golf posture. Again, you're going to cross your arms over your chest. And from here, I'm going to go from the side so you can kind of see a little bit better. But sorry, I think I'm blending in with my plant. Well, let me get over here so you can see me. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your pelvis and you're going to tuck your butt. So see, I'm making I'm kind of flattening my back, if you will. Then you're going to stick out your tailbone. So you're going to arch your back. And then from here, you're going to tuck your pelvis again, stick out your pelvis, and then relax. So for those of you who have not tried, hop on up and try it with me. Don't make me reach to that computer screen. And now I want you to think, do you feel some shaking going on? Can you not do this? Do you look like this right now? Or maybe if you do it, are you having a tough time arching your back? Are you having a tough time getting that extra, arch? Maybe you in your golf swing, you're already there. So there's no more room to get back there. That was me in college. So with this test, we look at a couple things. We look, okay, is it core strength? Does someone not have the core strength to be able to control their pelvis? Do they have core stability? Like, do they need more of that? Or is it a neurological thing? Like, have they never had to do this before? So, and if that's the case, how you kind of figure out if it's a stability thing is you can actually, like, if someone were to put my hand, like if they were standing in front of me, like if Matt was standing in front of me and he grabbed my shoulders, he says, okay, do the test. So he's like this, holding onto me. And then I would then be able to do that. If I were to be able to do that a lot easier, like, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. If it was more convenient when he did that, and I was able to get through that range of motion a lot more efficiently, that's what I'm trying to say, efficiently, then that means that I need more core stability. And if it doesn't help, then that probably means I don't have that range of motion yet, but it can be trained, which is very cool. So that's kind of the pelvic test in a nutshell. And you're like, okay, well, let's say it's a core stability thing. Okay, so that person probably, I would guess, from my experience in the golf fitness industry, those who have really poor pelvic tilt tests are, in my experience, are the ones that have quite a bit of either low back tenderness after they play. And so ways that we can help is we can increase your core stability. So some really basic ways to increase your core stability and even a little glute strength as well are things like front planks and side planks. And I know there are so many variations out there, like Kaitlyn has the most basic exercise ever, but it doesn't have to be golfy and doesn't have to be fancy. Like, this is just movement. Like, everyone should be able to do this stuff. And so, you know, it depends on where you're starting and the regression for that. But here's how to do those movements, just in case you're like, you know what? I don't even know how to do a front plank. There's no shame. We're going to show you right now. So how to go about doing your front plank without avoiding a lot of low back tenderness is everyone hop on the floor, and we're going to lay on your belly. Okay. So from here, you're going to tuck your back toes. And from here, I want your elbows under your shoulders. And I want you to squeeze your glutes as tight as you possibly can. Lift up your hips. And I want you to think like tucking your butt. Okay. So tuck your butt, squeeze your shoulder blades. You are nice and tight here. Okay. So you want to hold this if you're working on gaining up your core strength. Just hold this for 10 seconds. And if you can't do 10 seconds, just hold it until anything up until that point. Unless you start to get some low back tenderness, like through your low back here, then I want you to, what you could do is you could put something in between your knees and squeeze like a pillow or rolled up towel in between your knees to get a little extra core stability. Or you could start from a taller position. You could start from this position, or you could start from against like an elevated position, hands elevated, like on a kitchen towel or windowsill or a squat rack or something. That way you're giving yourself a great starting point. The other thing, it's funny because golfers, I think we think very, this is just with everyone, I think we think very like front and back. We don't think side to side. We don't think lateral things. We are very lateral, rotational, dynamic sports. We have to think about all sides. So we can't forget about our obliques. So a great oblique exercise to get the whole core. I often think we just think about, the crunches. We're going to go elbow under your shoulder, nice, strong lat. Left hand is up, or it can be on your hip. I like up. And all you're going to do is take your top leg and you're going to line it up with, so you're going to take your top left leg, if you're facing me, you're going to put it in front of your right toe. And then all you're going to do is press up, hip bones going straight ahead, and we're going to hold for about 10 seconds. And if that's too much, you can always shorten your lever and have your knees stacked and start here. So you want to do that about 10 seconds on each side to just get used to this and warm up. And then there's, of course, progressions and regressions for that as well. But that is a great, great way to start building core stability and core strength for you to actually be able to control your pelvis at impact and get into the most efficient position that you can. Yeah, so I know we just went through a lot of things, and I hope this was helpful for you guys, but I wanted to just open it up for any questions that you may have, and maybe have any questions on what certifications, if you're looking to actually get into the golf fitness space. Like I said, I went to Methodist, and I started out studying for my PGA. I'm inactive now, but I started studying for my PGA, and I ran into a golf injury, low back injury, and that's what kind of got me into the golf fitness space. And for a while, I think my mentors said, like, Kaitlyn, I think you're pretty much either the only one that I know or very few who had their PGA certification and their CSCS, so I'm a certified strength and conditioning coach for golf. And so if any of you have any questions on how to get into this space, what certifications do you recommend? I recommend TPI certification for everyone. They have an amazing golf pro track where they teach you all of these amazing things, and they just make you, they help you just be a better coach and add more arsenal, and add more tools to the toolbox, and just really helps you stand out, I think, as well. And it just helps you, I think, as I know that you care about your clients so much, and they're like your family most of the time, and you want them to move well, you want them to enjoy the game, and you want them to keep playing. And so fitness is one of the biggest things that we can think about, because honestly, we put 8 times our body weight on our spine at impact. It's absolutely remarkable the amount of stress that goes into that we put on our body with this game. So if your clients are in pain, you don't want them to quit. Like, this is their release, this is their thing. And so just having those eyeball looking at their swing through the eyeballs of with the fitness is really, really powerful. And Daniel, do you have any PDFs, images of those stretches? Yes, I actually have. I have all of these. Yeah, I have all of these. I have a golf fitness app. So what I could do is I could just set up a little with an app there's like 400 exercise videos my colleague and I recorded a couple years back. So every exercise that I program for my athletes, I have a follow along video. So I can share that with Matt, and any additional exercises I think you might like. And I also have a golf warm up I didn't get to, but I'm happy to share that with you as well to kind of work through during this time. Yeah. Any other questions?
Kaitlyn, I'm curious if you have any easy stretches that pros could do in, like, say, the golf shop without maybe getting on the floor, or their students can do in their office in between phone calls, just something they can easily work on without maybe working up too much of a sweat.
Right. No, this is so great. I'm so glad you said that, because I actually have 4. If you guys have time, do you want me to show those to you guys?
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, awesome. So here are, I'm just going to put this up a little taller so you can actually see my head. Okay, so these exercises you can do like Matt was saying right from at home. I'm just going to tilt this up. Sorry, I thought I had this all situated. There we go. Okay, so what these exercises you can do just like standing. You don't have to get on the floor. The first one, you're going to hug the outside of your shin, and you're going to pull straight up. The biggest problem areas, guys, are your glutes. So you really want to be stretching those. So this is a great way to just get some movement through your low back and to open your low back. So you want to do about 5 on each side. You can do 5 to 8. Now there's your glute max, which is like the larger part of your glute. And then the glute med is like the taller part that's up here that typically gets really tight and starts to be kind of painful for a lot of people. So we want to make sure we stretch that too. So at an angle, bring your leg up, and then you're just going to hug your knee. It's called a leg cradle. You're just going to pull all the way up. So if you can see here, I'm standing nice and tall. I'm here and I'm just going to pull straight up. So you're getting, you should, for those doing this at home, you should get a stretch right across here. Again, 5 to 8 each side. And if you want to stay close by to a wall, if you feel a little wobbly, this does require, I recommend everyone doing this like either barefoot or kick your shoes off. The next one is called a reaching single leg deadlift. Again, just really helping you get some movement through your hip area. So what I'm going to have you do here, I'm going to have you soften your left leg. You're going to grip the floor with your feet, and then you're just going to hinge on one leg, reaching as far forward as you can, and then come right back up. Now, again, if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm falling over, actually reach to the wall. So you can reach to the wall if you feel a little unstable. But basically, you want to take those hip bones, those hip flashlights, and as you hinge, you want to point them down towards the floor instead of, you know, doing the ice skater move, as I like to say. So you're going to do that 8 times on each side, getting a huge stretch through your hamstrings. And then the last one that I can share with you is if you want to get down on one knee, you can, or I'll do it this way, to get your thoracic spine, so you don't have to get on the floor. Well, you're kind of on the floor, but you can meet me halfway. So you're going to put your left hand on your right knee, and you're just going to open up. So again, you're going to inhale and then exhale about 5 to 8 on each side. And that will really get things loosening up really nicely, especially like with dealing with your low back, sitting at your desk, and then also right before you play. Like sometimes you just, if you're like, hey, you know, Mrs. Jones wants to go play golf with you, and you gotta go. So what that may mean is you have to think of a quick way to go, okay, I'll be right there. But in your office, maybe you're doing these movements to help you organize and to help you warm up. So it's a really great, those are the minimum that I would do. I'd probably do a lunge circuit, just like a split squat circuit. You know, lateral. Another one that I would probably do is, again, we don't want to forget about like our rotational. We're very side to side. We're not just front. You know what I mean by that, Matt? So you have your toes straight ahead, super wide, and then you're just gonna squeeze your butt at the top, and then you're gonna lock out your left leg to sit back on your right. So you're getting a huge adductor stretch. This one I would not play golf without doing because it's stretching your adductors and giving you, we're going to do about 8 on each side. It's just giving you the ability to actually get explosive and use the whole part of your body that is oftentimes the most forgotten part about your body during your golf swing, and warming it up for that, for sure. So that would be my quick little, I actually have that whole thing. Golf Digest and we did a quick 5-minute free golf warm-up, and I'm more than happy to share that link with you guys so you can test it out. And all you need is just a golf club and actually go through all of those movements. Plus we did an overhead deep squat as well, which is really helpful with your golf club. So you just put the golf club over your head and do about 8 to 10 squats. So those are like 4, 5, 6 movements you can do before you play. Yeah. Great question. Great question.
Anyone else have any questions?
I'm more than happy to, I'll make sure to put that together, all the exercises I've shown you. I will put together like a little warm up or mobility circuit, if you will. I'll give everyone access to that. And you can have every exercise though will have a, 15-second to 30-second coaching description follow along video. So the thing that the thing that really used to irk me, like when I actually quit my first personal training session in high school because of this, is I had my first personal training session and I felt so out of place, and I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I looked weird. I looked just like kooky, and I wasn't wearing the right clothes. Like, and the person who, he's a great trainer, but he just didn't sell me on why I had to do these movements for golf. And I honestly just felt embarrassed. And I felt like I didn't belong. I didn't know what I was doing. So the thing that I've always wanted to make sure, which is why I love doing follow along things, instead of just one-off writing programs for people. Like, I just don't like doing that stuff. I like bringing people, that like coaching, like this is what we do. And the reason for that is I want to help people feel inclusive, and feeling like, okay, even though I'm just starting, I trust you, and you're telling me why this is helpful for my golf game, and I never have to think twice. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because when you trust the program, you trust the process, all you have to do is just keep showing up. But if you don't trust the process, you're overthinking everything, you can never really just get in the groove. You can't let that positive snowball effect happen. So that's one thing that I've always really made sure I try to go above and beyond as much as I can to think of new ways to help people do this stuff. Whether they're veterans or they workout veterans, or they're, new to the fitness and game altogether. So yeah, great question. Oh, I'm so glad, Eric. I'm so glad you guys are, David, thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Matt. I hope this was helpful for people. And I don't want to go over time. I really want to be respectful of your time. If anyone is interested in getting into the golf fitness industry, please just reach out to me. I know I really didn't get into that, but start with TPI, start with, if you want to actually be a certified golf fitness instructor or a certified strength and conditioning coach, reach out to me. Anyone who asks me a question on how to get into the industry, I love helping them because it's such a fun industry. There's room for everyone and for all of us, and everyone has their own little niche, and everyone says things different ways. Just like there's more than enough room for all the coaches in the world, that we all like have different stories. We bring different things to the table. So I hope I can help someone start a new, path in the golf world. It's a very cool field, and I'm just so grateful for being here with you guys today, and so excited.
Well, thank you, Kaitlyn. It was good, and I think the members got a lot out of it. Before we go, everybody, when Kaitlyn sends me some of her resources, I'll go ahead and share that with the attendees from today, as well as her contact information. So if you have any more questions, or want to refer any of your students to her for fitness classes or any of the online things she does, I will share that as well. We finally got the webinar videos up from the past couple of weeks. Again, apologize for the technical issues, but those are all up on phillypga.com right now on the homepage. And we will be adding today's webinar in the next day or so as well, so you can refer back to this. Additionally, we have Michael Breed's webinar tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. If anyone wants to join for that, please do. And then what is right now our final rules webinar on Thursday at 9 a.m. Anyone, yes. If anyone has any additional questions about guidance for the pandemic and operations, please reach out to me or Jeff, and we'll do our best to answer your questions or concerns. We're all in this together. We're going to try to get through it, and if we all play by the rules, hopefully we can slowly start to loosen the guidance as we go along the next few weeks. So, Kaitlyn, thanks again very much for your time. It was wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. I know I went over time, but I'm so grateful that you're here, and I wish you all a safe and healthy rest of your day, and hope you all open up soon.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, guys.